Hi, welcome to my review of Inertial Drift, which is a retro alternative future drifting title set in an alternative version of the 90s in which all cars are electric, they can phase shift through each other to avoid crashing, and are capable of absurdly huge angles of drift at the drop of a hat. Oh, and everything's cel-shaded in this reality as well. So if we look first of all at driving simulation, it's fairly safe to say it's not a sim, and you'd be bang on the money for thinking so. So driving simulation, I'm just going to give it a 1 and move on to talk about how it drives rather than how accurate it is. So Inertial Drift's unique selling point is that it has twin stick control, with the left stick being used for steering and the right stick used for your drift angle. In reality, you'll actually use the drift stick to steer sideways a lot, and the steering stick exists to fine-tune the drift once you're in it. You certainly can't actually steer using the steering stick alone. What raises Inertial Drift beyond this basic concept is the genuinely different way in which the cars in it not only handle, but how rapidly they initiate drifts, the maximum angle they can attain, and what you need to do to both initiate and recover from a drift. Each and every car needs a very different approach, pardon me, and you'll need to get to grips with each one and master them as individual challenges. Something that does raise that unique controller handling model above a simple one-dimensional arcade model. But as I'll talk about a little bit later on, it can also be a bit of a double-edged sword to accessibility within the title. So moving on to the racing simulation side of it, and I've given this a 7 because the AI does offer a solid challenge whilst remaining reasonably fair. As you can imagine, Inertial Drift does feature rubber banding, but it's actually quite mild and never really that obvious. This does mean that you can't go pinballing down the track and expect to have them reeled back into you, which is good. Motorsport simulation, once you get past the fact that Inertial Drift was never going to offer a simulation of any traditional motorsport, besides a passing similarity to Togu battles, hence a rating of 2, and embrace the alternate world it's set in, you have a good solid range of activities to experience. The career portion of it's based around a group of friends on a road trip to try out 5 different locations on the World Grand Prix before competing in it. And that World Grand Prix is actually a separate menu option in the career. And across this you get to experience various free run events, drift style events called Style, ghost battles and 1v1 races, which is where the similarity to Togu battles comes in. Accessibility, now this is a tricky one. I've given it a 6 because it's mainly going to boil down to how well you get on with the twin stick approach to driving and drifting. I found it gelled quite quickly, but I do have a caveat on that. But I can imagine that for some it simply won't work, hence the score of 6. If you're able to adapt to it, then you have the added challenge of all those different approaches each car takes to being driven. And again, some of these you may adapt to immediately, others you may struggle with, and some you simply may not be able to get to grips with at all. I do also have one massive gripe with the title, which may seem a little bit petty, but for a title that is as utterly stunning to look at as Inertial Drift, the lack of replays is a staggering oversight. I want to see what this looks like from as many angles as I can, and this omission does irk me quite a lot. Okay, moving on to content, and I've gone for a 6 here. With it, you get 20 tracks set across 5 different locations, and these tracks are a mixture of circuit and point-to-point variations. You get a similar number of cars, all loosely based on models from our reality. Inertial Drift offers a reasonable amount of content, and you get plenty to do with it, with the career mode telling a different story for each of the friends, an arcade mode, and the Grand Prix mode. And it provides a decent amount of depth for an arcade title overall. In terms of value, I gave this a 7. Prices seem to range anywhere between £15 to £20 across different platforms right now. And Inertial Drift does offer reasonable value for money. The main question you've got to ask yourself is it going to be cheap enough to risk that, what I think is a love-hate split the twin stick controls may end up creating? Because that's the unknown, is how will you get on with that. So value, I've given a 7 because I think that is an unknown in there. In summary, it is rather ironic that a short while ago I was lamenting that no one had done a cel-shaded arcade racer since Auto Modelista, and out of the blue, well, to me anyway, one pops up. And I have to be honest, the aesthetic of it won me over from first sight. And it does look stunning, and it runs incredibly smoothly. The twin stick controls and the adjustability when drifting are, for me, sublime with some cars and utterly frustrating with others. Now, that may be something that I need to learn to master with the other cars, but it could also just simply be a balancing issue. As such, it's difficult to outright recommend at full price, but given the relatively low cost point, for many it will be worth a punt. Now, when it gets to sale prices, I would suggest jumping straight in. I can pretty much assure you that you will not have driven anything like it before. One caveat to all of that does exist. If you're a big drifting and manga fan, you may as well just go out and buy it. You're going to love it purely for the aesthetic alone. So that's Inertial Drift, new arcade title. Hopefully you found this useful. If you have, please do hit the like button down below. And if you want to see more content like this, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be notified when new content gets uploaded. Thanks very much.